So, after we have discovered what we're doing here, we have a system to make this thing work, and that's on page 5. I want you to turn there real quick. And I got to be honest with you, I didn't get this at first. Page 5, I didn't get this at first. In any business, you got to have a system. We call it the BOS, which is the Business Operating System. That's what it stands for. And it's comprised of 3 elements. What are those elements? DNA for people, DNA for business, and DNA for life. So what's DNA? DNA is building blocks. I'm not a scientist, but I do know one thing. When I was 6 years old, let me tell you a quick story. My grandma lived in Wheaton. I lived in LA. What are you doing here, Kevin? Right? I mean, but, okay, that aside, my grandma would come and spend 8 months out of the year with us. And as a 6-year-old, it was exciting to have grandma around. And she grew up in the Midwest, and she did something every day that most people don't do anymore. And that's bake fresh yeast bread every day. That's what you did. Because it was just enough for that day, right? And it was gone. So you make fresh the next day. What a great concept, right? So as a 6-year-old, I thought growing up, everyone baked fresh yeast rolls for dinner every single day. I didn't even ask the question. I just assumed that other people had the same kind of experience. So in order to put this system together, I wanted to come up with a visual example that you might be able to relate to.
Yeast bread, all right.
Yeast bread. There's non-negotiables to yeast bread. The first non-negotiable is flour. You absolutely have to have flour. You're not going to get bread without flour, right? The next thing you need is yeast. That's vitally important in order to have any kind of a rise. Otherwise, you're just going to have flatbread, but it's not going to taste very good. It's not going to develop. The other thing that you need salt. Some people say in bread baking that that's a negotiable. Have you ever had bread without salt? Anyone had bread without salt?
Awful.
It is awful. How they even invented that, it's a communist plot. We'll edit that later. But seriously, it really is. Salt is essential. But you're not going to have anything without water. Guys, these are the non-negotiables, right? Flour, salt, yeast, and water. If you don't have those, you don't have bread, right? Now, I can ask somebody to come up and taste the flour for me and taste how good it tastes. You want to try? You know, you already know. Because as a 6-year-old, you probably did one of these things. What's that? No, we don't want these. What do we want? Fresh bread. Oh, that smells so good. Okay. This is the operating system. These are the building blocks. These are the non-negotiables to get this. And depending upon how you mix these together and in what quantities, in the system that you put it all together, you can make any bread known to mankind. But without these, you're not going to get this. So the non-negotiables to what we do here at Mastermind Seminars is the BOS system. That's the bread. That's the end result. The building blocks to helping us get there are the DNA for people, the DNA for business, and the DNA for life. The DNA for people is understanding personality styles. I mean, isn't it weird in any business, no matter what business you're in, you've got to deal with people, don't you? That's the flour and salt. You will deal with people no matter what. And in bread, you have to have flour. And depending upon the personality style, some are more salty than others. But I mean, people do add flavor to whatever group you're with. These are non-negotiables, and that's personalities and understanding how people work. The second non-negotiable is the DNA for business. We call that the 530 grid. Without yeast, you don't have yeast bread, right? That's the thing that actually helps it rise. You can blend these things together and not have the yeast, and it's not going to grow. And in your business, you can have the DNA for people, but without the DNA for business, you're not going to know what to do with them once you figure out how they function. So you got to put it all together, right? We're going to help you do that. And the third component, as great as all these three are, yeast, salt, and flour, you're not going to get bread without water. And in our business, that's the DNA for life. It's literally the DNA for life is water. That's the natural laws. The natural laws are the things that bring it all together. And those are the laws. There's over 250 natural laws that have been discovered. And knowing what they are, regardless of who you are or where you're going. Oh, thanks. I appreciate that, Mark. Look, you picked up my lid for me. You rock. Without doing this, we're not going to be going anywhere. Does this help?
Great story.
Does this help? Because then we know what we're going for. This is what we want, but these are non-negotiables. That's why we do this every single month. Come back every single month. There's going to be 7 segments. Each one of them are a non-negotiable to helping you put this all together. Okay? Those are the building blocks. Now, once we understand people, let's turn on to page 6. We understand an idea of the 530 grid and why that's absolutely important for business. That's where you're going to be doubling your sales. This is on page 6 right here in segment 4. And natural laws. It's the DNA to life. Have you ever wondered, this is in segment 5, have you ever wondered why something doesn't work that really should? That's what we're going to be talking about today in a little more depth. Okay? So, before we get into too much detail, I want to introduce somebody to you. And before I do that, I'm going to bring up Mark Boersma here in a minute. Before I do that, though, I want you to understand that we want you to interact. We want you to talk. We want you to ask questions and interact with each other here. By the end of the time today, all of us will have made a connection. All of us. So here's my question. Why wouldn't each and every one of you be coming back every single time we have this to leverage your connections and make money? Don't miss one of these things. You can bring your biggest challenge and find a solution and start to implement it, but you may find another one. I guarantee you will. But if you stop coming, you're essentially on your own. That's why we need you to keep coming back. We want you to be here. We want this to be the best time of your entire week. So let me introduce to you. I'm so excited about this. Mark Boersma is the president of Synergy Solutions. He, along with Tom Coons, helped put together the Mastermind seminars. And he's going to be coming and sharing with us something really important that you need to grasp, because you can understand how these things come together. You can understand the system and the non-negotiables. But why you're going where you're going, or what your vision is for your life, is going to be critical. Mark Boersma, come on up. Let's give him a big hand of applause.